I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Friday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along. I'm pleased to have a dear friend and leader in our community, Dr. Breveda Garrett Akinsanya. We're talking about COVID. Her leadership in the African American Child Wellness Institute is launching has a project underway to focus on crisis intervention in the COVID-19 environment. It's no secret that African Americans are disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We are disproportionately represented in multiple areas of disparity, including schools and housing and health access and economics. And because of our lived experiences of inequity, we are preloaded to be the perfect storm that attracts the virus, COVID-19. Coronavirus. For example, the CDC has pointed out that in multiple health determinants, it's known that these determinants are known to increase the risk for catching COVID-19. Issues include poverty, housing challenges, obesity, heart disease, asthma, sedentary lifestyle, poor diets. All of these have a deleterious effect on African American communities. Well, on top of that, there's the trauma caused by fear, the trauma caused by lack of access, the trauma caused by our preoccupation, an important preoccupation with the George Floyd incident and reflections of that in our daily experience. Dr. Breveda, good afternoon. And how do we deal with that? How do we approach responding to moving towards normalcy, keeping healthy as we navigate these turbulent waters? Unmute your microphone for me.
Thank you so much, Al, for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you and our viewers and listeners. It is very important, as you said, that we be very involved in making sure that we remain healthy or get healthy. Mm-hmm. As you said, there is already a preloading in our community due to over exposure to stressors and limited buffers and resources to the stress. So first of all, being healthy helps us, but also experiencing some strong and consistent behavioral patterns that will help us be well. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about those.
Mm-hmm. Please do.
Yeah. Thank you. The behavioral health of African Americans is really linked to our mental wellness. And some of the things that we say to ourselves, like, what won't kill you will make you stronger. So if we substitute what won't kill you will make you stronger, like if COVID doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. If violence doesn't kill you, it will make you stronger. If racial discrimination doesn't kill you, it will make you stronger. Talks about the idea that we take negative events and try to reconstruct them into a positive outcome. Now, that is good because we are resilient. We do understand difficulties, but unfortunately, what won't kill you may not make us stronger, just kill us or make us sicker. Mm-hmm. So we have to do some things, and we need to use this African value of Kujichagulia. Mm-hmm. Kujichagulia means self-determination. We need to take control of our own health, our own bodies, our own decisions about what we eat, where we eat, when we eat, whether we wear a mask or not, because I know that COVID can kill you, but wearing a mask won't. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us to protect our lives. And if Black Lives Matter, then we need to save our own by first using masks, washing our hands, doing all social distancing, doing all the things that we are reminded to do. So the behavior of us as African Americans is really, really important for our wellness and that of our children.
African Americans are among the workers who are deemed essential because we work at low-level manual labor jobs, producing food, serving and cooking meals, things like delivery, systems, janitorial staffs, etc. And our people are also engaged in jobs that cannot be performed virtually, by and large. In April, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, released a new preliminary nationwide study or data that revealed that 30% of COVID-19 patients were African Americans, even though we only make up 13% of the population in the US. And Minnesota's the same. Our rates of exposure or infection with COVID-19 staggering 16%, though we only make up 6.3% of the population. Well, you've assembled a program to help create some interventions to help our people navigate this dangerous time. Talk about the program, if you would, Dr. B.
Thank you so much. We are very lucky and blessed to be able to offer a COVID relief program and prevention and intervention. And we talk about crisis counseling being provided to our communities because it's very few of us at this point who don't know someone who either contracted COVID or even someone who has died of it. So in our community, just like you're saying, we're the highest in terms of being exposed and getting the disease. We're also among the highest death rate from the disease. And when we have leaders saying that it's a hoax or something is fake about it, then we know good and well that we've heard about people dying. We need to use our own common sense, our kujichagalia, to determine how we're going to engage. So this particular program is providing a variety of support systems, from individual short counseling to family discussion about what COVID means and how to keep yourself safe, to dealing with the grief and the loss of family members and loved ones in our communities that just go in the hospital one day and don't come out, and that it's so quick to see people die.
And you can't visit them.
And you cannot visit
You drop them off and you may never see them again.
That's right. That's right.
I'm pleased to be a part of your team, Dr. B. My company has been engaged by you and has joined you in marketing this outreach and awareness initiative through our dashboard, through our newspaper, and through our podcast and broadcast. So this work is so critical and so important. And I'm pleased also to be connected with my colleague and fellow broadcaster, Brother Al Flowers. I call Al Flowers the field marshal of our movement here, the revolutionary movement in the Black community. But together, I think with you, we are trying to change the narrative, create a new narrative about what it means to be healthy, to change the perception about mental illness and mental health. One of the barriers here is, as you described, those old adages that don't serve us anymore. What doesn't kill you makes you better. Not good enough anymore. Right. And so part of that is about the narrative. And so how do we work on creating what I call a public mind that really supports awareness, sustainability, and prosperity in health and other areas of life as well?
Well, the way we begin is by changing our mind. Psychologists have this construct, it's called cognitive reframing. So it's like the person who sees the glass half empty, but another person sees it as half full. Mm-hmm. So having a positive attitude about one's ability to change is really critically important. So when we start thinking about COVID, instead of laying down and saying, oh, what won't kill me will make me stronger. Oh, I'll see if I can make it through. Then we need to rely on our strengths that exist in our community. Strengths like our belief in collectivism, our strength to say, I am because we are. The belief that if I take care of me and take care of you, all of us have this covered. So I wear this mask, not just for myself, but for those I love, those in my community. That's my statement of keeping us alive and keeping us strong. So reframing ourselves from being victims to being not just survivors, but thrivers in our environment, and that we have those abilities. The other way we change it is to let go of those old beliefs that seeking mental health support means you're weak or faulty or flawed. And we find from even the research that the most successful people who thrive and make lots of money and have lots of notoriety and good relationships, those people know how to use resources. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like if you had a toothache, you would go to a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
If you need a loan, you go to a banker. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you have emotional or mental health challenges, you go to someone who specializes in that area. You could find your way on your own. You could pull your tooth on your own, but it makes a lot more sense to use somebody who has expertise so you can do it faster, better, and in a more long-lasting way. So I'm wanting to encourage us to be okay with helping each other and okay with seeking professional support.
So, I talked to one of our colleagues, Ted Thompson, last week about the same exact thing. And one of the things he stressed was us understanding the power, the negative power of stigmatization, and how that kind of prevents our movement and our embrace of really rational and positive oriented uh, self self-generated activity. So
Mm-hmm.
how do we, why are we so stigmatized? First of all, how does mental health become something that is is a stigmatized event in our community, and how do we get beyond that?
Well, we learn it and we learn it from our environment. And part of the way of moving from the stigmatization and that process is to claim your wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is a legacy, I have to say, a legacy of slavery. Because when we were slaves, and I'm two generations, my dad was born in 1898, and my grandfather, Simon Garrett, was a child when slavery ended. So I'm only two generations from slavery, and all of us are really closer to slavery than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
And what they taught us is that we did not own our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't own our bodies. We could be sold, we could be killed, we could be whipped with the whim of a master. And because we didn't learn to own our bodies, we're psychologically in a process of overturning the trauma of being objectified. And that psychological process what we went to is called mental side. So mental side is the psychological process of killing off the humanity of another human being. And when you do that as an oppressor, you lose your own humanity in order to make someone as an animal. So then we begin to incur the belief structure. Some of us have heard about the Willie Lynch saying, if I tell people to separate in 300 years, they'll still be fighting against each other. They'll still succumb to the slave master mentality. So some of that has been internalized. And we have to really fight to reclaim our bodies. But when we do fight, we always win. And that's what I want to tell people today.
Mm-hmm.
If you fight for your health, you will win. And whether it means having a better outcome from smoking or drinking or sex or child rearing or relationally, it means that we will make healthier choices. We will eat better. We will exercise more. We'll choose the right path because we're seeing our bodies as temples of God. We're seeing our bodies as something that we can control. Although we can't control everything in our life, we can't control the COVID virus, but we can surely wage a good fight against it. So that's what I'm purporting, is that we understand that there's a public education campaign
Mm-hmm.
around this disorder that's killing us. And
Mm-hmm.
that campaign should be giving us voice to speak truth to power, that no matter what's going on, we can do something about it.
As you were talking about being two generations from slavery, it just reminded me, maybe I've told you this before, that like you, I'm probably three generations from slavery. And my grandmother's mother was born in about 1860 or 59 and was born as the property of other human beings.
That's right.
The deal is, I knew her. So my great grandmother is a person that I walked with, talked to, she hugged me, she loved me. And it was only after watching 12 Years a Slave, the movie, that I came back home and found this photograph on my wall that had her in it, her daughter, my grandmother, her daughter, my mother, and then me and my cousin sitting on the floor in a family picture. It's priceless. And the picture was almost glowing because it was speaking to me, right? And I picked it up and looked at it and I said, you know what? She was a slave. She was somebody else's property. And so it's not far back. And it reminded me too, Dr. B, that once I talked to, after she had died, her sister lived with us in Kansas City. When I was 12, she had called me in and said, Alvin, I just want to tell you that whenever you see the white people, make sure you say yes'm and no'm. Make sure you say yes sir and no sir. And don't look at them and don't have anything or give them any reason to give you a hard time. I'm 12 years old. I'm a big 12 years old. And I'm sitting there sweating and burning, boiling hot, mad inside because I'm being instructed by her in ways that I think restrict and limit my humanity, my sense of dignity as it's developing. But at the same time, I realize this is instruction intended to keep me alive. And it comes out of her lived experience because she was born just after slavery. And so what is that dynamic? Her desire to pass on life affirming instruction to me and my shame and hurt at her having to tell me that. And how do we deal with that? What do you think, Doc?
I love you. I love that story you told, and I think it is so real for many of us. If we would just stop long enough to do the math, we'll realize that we're not far from that.
Mhm.
And I can understand the newfound freedom that a young Black boy may have, knowing that he's growing up in a time that's not exactly like that of his
Mhm.
grandmother or great grandmother.
Mhm.
But I thought about it when you were talking about the fact that we still have to give that talk to our
Mhm.
children when they're in the face of authority, especially policemen.
Mhm.
And even at school with principals or white teachers who don't understand our culture, or even Black teachers who have learned to teach like white people and forgetting the strengths of our culture. So it's about survival, and it's about how do we thrive and go beyond just survive. And the truth is that when we remember that legacy, we have to live long enough to change things.
Mhm.
And wearing a mask for COVID, washing your hands because of COVID, social distancing because of COVID, being healthy, sleeping right, keeping boundaries, those because of COVID, that is the same language that we need externally and internally for survival so we can thrive. You got to survive before you can thrive. And that's what we've got to understand.
What kind of crisis is COVID causing in our community? Your mission to provide crisis counseling. What are you discovering, and what do you anticipate you're going to see in terms of people needing help, needing counseling?
I think people need a whole lot of different types of counseling. Some of us are walking around the worried well. And we get a sneeze, we hear a cough, suddenly we think, ooh, that's COVID, and we get nervous and have anxiety attacks. So, one of my colleagues who works in the emergency room of one of the hospitals talked about how they're getting a lot of people coming in with anxiety attacks, more than they've had before. And most of it is around a fear of contracting COVID. So if they get a cough or somebody in their family seems to get chills or fever, they start worrying like that. So a lot of us are the worried well. But many of us, the crises come because we have sick people that we have lost. And like you said earlier, we are not even able to support each other in our normal ways. Normally, we hug each other, we'll go to lunch with each other,
Mhm.
we'll be at the hospital around the clock, staying there, sleeping there, taking shifts, holding hands with our loved ones. We have all of these ways of intervening that have been kind of taken away from us, at
Mhm.
least in the way that we normally would do it. So now we're having to do Zoom calls to someone in the hospital if you're lucky. You're
Mhm.
having to do see grandmothers through windows at nursing homes, and parents are having to keep their kids from coming in contact with elders because
Mhm.
the elders could contract something, and kids walk around looking well and being well and being carriers of the disease. So all of these things are ways that kind of change the way we live. In the crisis around it, it's that this is not something that will just make you sick. It has the highest, most infectious, deleterious effects of any disease that we have known, and it will kill you quickly. And so that's why people are in crisis, because they're dying and not having the normal death ritual. They're sick and not having the normal health ritual, and we feel isolated, alone. We don't have the resources that we used to have. So the
Dr. B,
crisis is that.
Dr. B, thank you so much. I know you've got another conference to go to right
Yeah,
now.
I do, but I want to give you 2 more minutes of information.
Please go
So
right ahead.
So the other part I wanted to bring out is that I've been hearing parents calling me. My phone's been off the chain, left and right, asking about what do they do with these kids, because all the kids aren't going back to school. Some of the kids are doing half days at school or part-time at school and then being at home. And parents, they love their kids, but it is working some of the parents' last nerves. So I wanted to make sure that for the kids' sake, as well as for the parents' sake, that I put just a couple of tips in for what I'd like to see them do. So it's about 4 things I want parents to do. Keep your routines. Have a consistent wake up and bedtime. Meals should happen at regular intervals. Include quiet time activities like reading and lessons and electronics, and schedule that for your children. Secondly, provide outlets by making time for them to play, enjoying the great outdoors, even if they go for the walk up and down the block or ride their bikes. All of that is safe to do. Be creative with art, music, and reading. And I want to let you know, kids still like to play that game, musical chairs, that we used to do. They still okay with that. Even big kids, especially if you put on some good music. I don't care how old, I've been seeing them have fun doing it. Then make sure that you have limits and rules. Place limits on the electronics and the digital games. Don't let that be the parent for your children when you're present. Maintain good expectations for them to have personal hygiene. Make sure they wash. Give them stickers when they are especially learning to wash long enough to get their hands done clean. Be creative with them by creating a good workspace for homework and homeschooling to take place. And finally, most importantly, spend quality time with your kids. If you are having to go to work like many of us do, or work 2 jobs so that you can pay the bills, make sure that when you are home, that you are present. So cook together, exercise, read a story together, have them to read to you. You might fall asleep yourself, and they kind of like that. Yeah. And play board games, sing, and have family dinners. So keeping routines, providing outlets, limiting and making limits and rules, and spending quality time, that will hook parents and their kids up. That's what awesome. I'd like to leave with our listeners.
That's absolutely amazing. Let me tell you, I love the screensaver you got behind you. I was going to ask you, what island are you on?
I'm in Hawaii in my mind.
You're in Hawaii. Okay, well, enjoy. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest has been the phenomenal Dr. Breveda Garrett Akinsanya, who is head of the African American Child Wellness Institute, among other projects, but talking about how we navigate through crises and provide crisis counseling during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. B, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Take care. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
All right. And now we switch to my colleague and friend, Robin Hickman. Robin, how you doing?
I am so wonderful, Al. Thank you. I have, it took 37 years, so and I'm very excited to share Robin Hickman Winfield. I have to get you.
I know that's right. I knew you was going to tell me that too.
You know that.
And you should. And thank you. So Robin Hickman Winfield, Robin, thank you so much for being here. It's always good to be with you and to see you. So Robin, for my viewers and listeners, has a project called Soul Touch, not a project, a business called Soul Touch. And in that, not only does she do a variety of entrepreneurial arts-focused projects, but she also serves as a consultant and advisor to major cultural institutions in Twin Cities, and I think probably around the country as well. But here, you have played a major role in bringing awareness and access to the Ordway Theater. And I ask you on today, and thank you for joining me to talk about an important project coming up this Monday night. And it's a tribute to a discussion about John Lewis, his work, his documentary called Good Trouble.
Mhm.
So talk about that. What's going to be going on Monday and how can people get involved in it?
Well, very, very excited. If I could give a little bit of background, this is a part of and launching a season that this year with theaters all over the country that unfortunately are struggling with sedation and not being able to present their seasons due to COVID. Coming up with very creative ways to bring the healing power of the arts to communities. The Ordway, in partnership with performing arts centers around the country that were embraced by the New Jersey Center for Performing Arts, was brought into this collaboration to present John Lewis' Good Trouble, to present this powerful documentary by director Don Porter, to bring to communities this amazing, powerful, monumental tribute to Congressman John Lewis. The documentary, which has been streaming, the Minneapolis St. Paul Film Festival has been streaming it for a few months. They're part of the partnership. But also an event on the 21st that will bring together a panel, including the director, Dr. Lonnie Bunch, who is the co-founder of the National African American Museum of History and Culture in DC, part of the Smithsonian. And he is also the first ever Black director, president of the Smithsonian Museum System. He will be one of the panelists, among others, on this coming Monday night, September 21st, to talk about Congressman Lewis and our journey and resilience and power as Black people in the struggle for racial justice. So that's going to be an amazing event. And so we are, again, presenting with others this powerful documentary. And we just encourage our community, let's represent Minnesota in experiencing this film and being a part of this conversation. But we're just proud to carry on in our community partnerships at the Ordway. I've been a part of the Ordway family since 2005. But more formally through a partnership, Soul Touch and the Ordway, in launching a decade ago, taking our place center stage. This year, we celebrate a decade of our communities walking with the Ordway in partnership and community engagement with artists from around the world, and us taking our rightful place, as my mother would say, at the Ordway, engaging in peace and hope and power and justice center stage. They're very proud of that. While all of our institutions in this time, I always quote a Bible verse, for such a time as this, in the loss of our brother, Philando Castile, George Floyd. We look to these different institutions that have lifted up statements about their positions on racial justice, social justice, as has the Ordway. And all of these institutions have work to do. I remember Mama passed, her theme for her homegoing, and you wrote a beautiful tribute to Mama. But her theme was, we still have so much work to do. That's what she told Aunt Josie Johnson in the hospital a week before she passed. We do. These institutions do. Our institutions do. But at the Ordway, I've been proud to be a part of a commitment of accountability, but also to ensuring, as Mama would say, holding institutions accountable. So we're proud to be a part of this presentation, but then carrying on that commitment that we have had. We're not new to ensuring that we're going to be accountable, but continuing to walk. If Hickman Winfield is there, I'm going to be talking about what we have been doing, what we're doing, and what we will continue to do. So this is a season of lifting up that work of us taking our rightful place with community, celebrating that. I think about after Brother Philando Castillo was taken from us and taken from those babies at J.J. Hill Elementary School, Terrence Blanchard, who came to walk and honor him and poured into the children at J.J. Hill Elementary School and the men of Ujamaa before he came back last year to give us this mighty concert. We have many stories that we haven't told that we're going to tell this year. We're going to honor Black men for 20 years who have received the prestigious Sally Awards. People don't know about, but this year we're going to honor those brothers, those artists, those visionaries. This year, see, this season, we're going to lift up the stories that have not been told of how the Ordway has been accountable to our people and how our people have walked with the Ordway. So that's not to have a window dressing. We are committed to the people. No, we have the people have walked with taking their rightful place. So I'm proud about, we have walked with, brother, you have held us accountable. You have walked with, but it's our time. As again, Mom has said, if I pay taxes, that's my house. It's not an either or. We have our community institutions, and those institutions are our houses. When I take my students from Gordon Parks to the Ordway, before the show starts, they say, we're in our house. And that's what we have to know. If we talk about our lives matter, and we have other folks who don't look like us say, Black lives matter, well, then let's hold them to the test. Then what does that look like? That's them walking with us as we claim our institutions. And I'm saying that's what we're about. Their accountability, institutions doing the work. Of course, we must do that. But it is our time right now. And I believe, and El, you know this, when we talk about the arts and the power of that healing and connecting with movements like this, Good Trouble, John Lewis, the night that I heard on Don Lemon's show that the dear congressman had passed away. And Don Lewis talked about when you were with John Lewis, you met him, you felt like you were the only person in the world as he talked to you. I immediately went to when I met him in New York when he was about to receive the Gordon Parks Award. And he made me feel so special. He made the young Black man the Choice of Weapons Fellow and the scholar from Gordon Parks High School who had never been on an airplane before that I brought with me to the event. And the way he made Quentin feel. I have this beautiful photograph. And I thought about how was this young Black man from St. Paul feeling, knowing that he met that icon. And so I'm so honored that we're a part of celebrating this man. And I am going to take this moment during this time, community, beloved community, pray that we take our rightful place in all of these institutions of art, history, and culture. If our lives matter, let's claim these places as ours.
Show up and stand up.
That's it. They're ours. As we ensure we are supporting our community institutions.
You know, Robin, I tell you, I'm so glad to hear you, and I always am. But what you're saying simply affirms the fact that, truthfully, the world is waiting for our voice.
Yes.
And the world has always monitored our voice and appropriated our voice without giving us credit, right?
Yes.
Now is the time where we show up with our voice in our authentic selves and speak our truth, not only to ourselves, but to the universe. And I believe the universe is listening right now in ways that it has before.
And watching the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
So what we know this, they are watching the Twin. James Baldwin said, and dear Godfather Mahmoud El-Kati said it. James Baldwin said, it's time for lovers of humanity to find one another. Right? And so I think in these places of arts, culture, and history, that's where we find one another. But it was Langston Hughes, and not a poem, but a letter where he was scolding theater, musical theater. It was titled, and Mahmoud gave me this letter too. They've taken our blues and gone. Let's get our blues back.
Yep, that's right.
And that's what we and let's take our rightful place.
Let's reclaim our time.
Let's reclaim our time and our spaces, and let's share those spaces. Another thing I've been able to experience in the last 15 years in walking with the Ordway and my colleagues and bringing these amazing experiences. I have had the blessing of meeting artists from around the world that come because they know when they come to St. Paul, they know that they will have opportunities to come into our community.
Right.
So they keep coming back.
Right.
Actors, when we had Porgy and Bess, they said we go to North Carolina expecting to see our people in the audience, and don't we come to St. Paul, don't expect to see them, but we see them. Y'all, you've showed up for these folks. If it's the members of Kool and the Gang or Ohio players who are overjoyed because they'll see me and say, we don't see Black folks working in these places. And it makes them feel good. Or when they can dance companies that come and dance at Mount Olivet Baptist Church and Fellowship Hall, and the deacons are dancing, and the mothers are dancing, and the mothers cook meals for them, and they can take back to their hotel rooms. And the stories I've asked, community, thank you for showing up and taking your rightful place. But now it's our time to take it to the next level.
That's right. That's right.
I want to take this opportunity for 10 years. Thank you. And let us all tune in and be inspired by Congressman Lewis, because that's what the movement was about, fueling us to take our rightful places and do the good trouble in the arts.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege, Robin, because one or two people that might be watching right now might not know your story, but your story is a phenomenal one. So I'm going to have you do the kind of the walk down Robin's, Robin Hickman Winfield's personal story, so that people know what's informing the passion that you bring to the work and to community, because you've got so much and you've done so much and you continue to do so much. And I want to give a minute for you to just take and say, where you came from, what your legacy is, whose shoulders you stand on, because your parents and your grands were greats. And so you are part of a river, a continuity that simply is performing as expected, and as expected, exceeding expectations and performing greatly.
That's so deep. We'll have to do it again. I think I'm so kind of amped up and passionate right now. I just came from being with my cousin Anura and Raquette Silsier in Black Ink, because we were talking about a project they're working on, the story of my father, Kofi Bobby Hickman. And so I am the daughter of Bobby Hickman, and my beloved mother, Patricia Frazier Hickman, my mother's side of Frazier, the only girl of 6 brothers. So of them, Lillian Parks Thomas, my grandmother. I'm a descendant of the Parks family, and my beloved. And so Bianca Rose always said, activate the ancestors. And right now, a lot of my work is in the spirit and the footsteps of my great uncle, filmmaker, photographer, humanitarian, composer, writer, Gordon Parks. I now more than ever believe in the legacy of my great uncle, Gordon Parks, because we were close. And as a young child, he inspired what I do. He taught me, inspired what I do for a living, but how to do it. And so a lot of my works, I walk young people in the footsteps of Uncle Gordon. But walking closely with him, I knew that when it was time to tell his life story, I went to him and he said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yes." And to be able to walk with HBO to do a documentary of his life, and I knew that would be everlasting. So yes, walking closely with my uncle, doing that work and maintaining my rightful place in that legacy work. And we must do that. I was able to be on a panel recently with an amazing filmmaker, Melissa Hayslip. If you haven't seen the film, Mr. Soul, which is this sister doing the legacy work. We call one another the legacy keepers. My dear friend Blair Underwood was an executive producer on her film, Mr. Soul, which is about her uncle, Ellis Hayslip, who in the 70s had a series on public television, Soul. You have to see that documentary. So watch Good Trouble of Congressman John Lewis and Mr. Soul. But we talk about the importance of us having our rightful place in our storytelling, especially if you were blessed to be a family member, walking up close and personal with family legacy. Yeah. Very important. So to walk with Uncle Gordon, to learn at his footsteps, and now to be able to walk with young people at Gordon Parks High School, to engage them and prepare them for extraordinary opportunities. Again, bringing it back to Congressman Lewis, to every year take young Black people who have some never left St. Paul, to put them on the airplanes, right? To be in those glorious events in New York City, to see Swiss Beats every year. And he asked, what brothers did you bring this year? But knowing my cousin Anura and I and Dr. Catherine from the University of Minnesota, no, we prepare our young people for extraordinary. That's what we must do. But coming through, as my young people say, Rona, I looked at that as a sabbatical. I've never had this kind of time, walking and being still and knowing God. Right. To rest, restore, reflect, and get ready for the reset. Because I knew the world would need the soul toucher. That's right. To be ready. And I'm ready. I'm stronger and clearer right now.
You were a trailblazer at Howard University.
Yes. Oh, yes. So when brother Chadwick passed, knowing, and hearing him say, give that commencement speech at Howard, my fellow Bison, to see Vice President Harris. I was at Howard at the same time. We were at Howard together. I'm like, wow, HU. I felt so proud. I've had an extraordinary life. I'm reflecting on Queen Maya Angelou walked right past me when I was sitting at graduation. She gave our commencement address. And so Mama always said, be humble, but know your worth. And y'all, Mama's been screaming, walk in your worth, Robin. And I know I love my people to life. So if I have breached anyone, please accept my apologies, but I know my heart and spirit, and I know I've loved my people to life. Let me remedy any breaches, but I'm moving forward. That's right. Because I know my heart and spirit. I know, but we don't have time. Yep. We do not have time. And for such a time as this, I'm bringing it.
Robin, you were breaking doors down in public television in Minnesota as well.
Oh, I had a ball.
I'm throwing it out to you, right?
You all wait. I'm about to get ready to call my brother Dan Bergen over there, who's kicking it. Some things are happening because I've tried to be obedient. I fall short, but I know my spirit. I have gotten through because I have with my heartbeat and love of my life, and God has said, "Well done, not perfectly." But I know all praises to God and my amazing husband, Stephen. So I am blessed, truly blessed and honored to be Mrs. Winfield. I'm a correct folks now, because we done been at this a minute. And so last year to be able to celebrate, I'm blessed. You have blessed me for a long time. You've been an amazing mentor. But we have work to do. There's a sense of urgency. But we can do this. It is our time, my people. It is our time.
When I see you and Steve, I see royal houses.
Thank you.
Royal houses. This is how legacies form and create, and institutions come out of intentionality, right. And divine spirituality and love. So
and my faith walk. I'm very thankful for the faith leaders in my life. But I wish that folks could see some of our photos. my brother-in-law Dave, I mean, he was cheesing tougher than Stevie at our celebration. But we just think community, beloved community, we can do this. One of the things I put on Facebook on the day we lost Brother Floyd, and I would like to share this in going out, in saying this, beloved community, we know that there are people who seek to take our breath away. Mm-hmm. Please, please, can we promise every opportunity we have to breathe life into, life in, can we promise to breathe life into one another? Mm-hmm. Please.
Let's call it there. Thank you so much, dear Robin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And let's tell people one more time about Monday night.
Monday night, John Lewis, Good Trouble. We will put up, I know Al, you were going to put up the information. Please continue to go to social media for Inside News. You'll be posting, and then the panel discussion will be mighty, and continue to just follow everything. Let's take our rightful place. Amazing things this season at the Ordway. Thank you so much. We love you.
Robin Hickman Winfield, thank you so much. I'm Al McFarlane. If you like this kind of conversation, like it, share it, and keep connected. We're building what we call robust conversations, reflecting our point of view, speaking to ourselves and to the world. And we love the opportunity. Love to have you along as well. We'll see you next time. Robin, you're going to come back Monday for a minute or two just to remind people to be there Monday night.
I sure will.
Monday night. Okay. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.